So my point is when we were showing the houses, again, I was trying to make sure that I instilled in Curtis to make sure that he exploited opportunities in real estate. You guys got in this business to make money. We want to make sure that you make money, you're helping people, etc. But you got to be looking around. So while we were looking around, we saw some people looking. We went over and talked to them. And I made sure that I said, Curtis, you give that person your business card. You get their information, follow up with them. Now, I think Curtis ended up getting a call back, and I think he's on the line. Curtis, you on the line?
Yeah, I'm on the line. Yeah, I got a
Do you remember that particular situation?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was I think that was the actual first showing I ever went on, and it was a gentleman in the parking lot.
Yeah.
And I followed up with him, a few times. We corresponded, and unfortunately, nothing actually happened from that transaction. But it was very powerful just to see that, we're out showing, someone's kind of looking. Like, go ahead and talk to them. Introduce yourself, hand them a business card. You never know where it might go. So yeah. I definitely remember
so
that.
So that was good. And what I was hoping was that it would teach him again to exploit every opportunity in real estate, because who knows, somebody watching you, they might be interested in finding out what their home value is. You might get a listing. They might be ready to purchase. So now, in addition to your client who's purchasing, you got a new listing, you got a new purchase. The property might be in a situation where you might need to get an investor involved. Now, in Porterhouse, we get investors involved in properties. That means we're going to help the buyer move. We're going to sell the house to the investor. We're going to get both sides of the transaction. Then we're going to make an agreement with the investor that once he finishes the property and fixes it, we're going to list it for him and hopefully find a buyer for that property. So all of these opportunities are there for you. And really, a lot of them we garner just by working with agents and being out in the field doing our business. You know what I'm saying? So once you're out there doing it, we want to make sure that you're looking for opportunities to exploit real estate. Now, you might even run across another agent who's coming behind you at a showing. Well, the first thing you want to do is recruit that agent. We're going to give you a $300 bonus if they join the company. So every opportunity, even if it's another agent come behind and say, are you getting 100% of your commission? Are you getting 80% of your commission? Most real estate agents aren't getting that. So you want to make sure that you take advantage of the opportunity that real estate affords you. Once you sell the house, the first thing you want to do is install an ADT system, because we got an ADT man that's going to give you another $300 if your client gets an ADT system that's free. Who doesn't want a free ADT system? And then he's going to bring the check over here and we're going to stick it in your mailbox. So that's extra money. So any opportunity that you get, make sure that you're exploiting everything that you can do in real estate. Don't think of your buyer as just a buyer. It's a whole lot of opportunity out there. So be looking for it. The other thing I want to say is that once you get a person who's talking about purchasing, you have to groom that person to become a buyer. They might be saying to you, I'm ready to rent. First thing I want to ask them is, what's your credit score? Because the credit score that you need to rent is pretty much nowadays the credit score you need to buy. And then I want to say, well, for your first month, a security deposit and your last month rent, that's pretty much a down payment on a house. What if I can get you in your house in the next 30 to 45 days and you become a homeowner as opposed to a renter? Would that change your life? Absolutely. So you want to convert renters into buyers. The other thing that I want to encourage you guys to do is that anybody who talks to you about purchasing, I don't care what their credit score is, send them to your lender. Send them to Mike Cooper. Let Mike Cooper run their scores. Let Mike Cooper look at their credit history, their income, and their assets. Then you don't have to worry about that person fixing their credit. Remember, they're the people that broke their credit. So I don't want them to try to fix it. It's like me. I drive my car. It breaks. I don't know how to fix it. I'm taking it to the mechanic. Well, Michael Cooper is the mechanic for approving people for a home loan. So if they've broken their credit, I tell them, hey, don't fix your credit. Let's get you over to my lender. Let him look at the situation. He can tell you what needs to be fixed now, what you can wait on, and some things you don't even want to touch. because if you touch them, you're actually opening up an old wound that was about to go away. So many people in the industry and many people that are not even in the industry don't even know these things to tell people. And people go about and they call these credit fixing people, and they fix their credit. Yeah, their credit scores go up and everything, but they can't buy a house for a few years. And your job is to make sure that you're putting them in the position to buy a house. We had one of our newest agents, Naima, call me, and she had a very interesting client who was in a situation. And what I said to her is, Naima, if you do it this way, you don't make any money as a real estate agent. But if you do it that way, you're going to make some money as a real estate agent. And I'm not going to get into the particulars, but that's the way we got it. And we even had a conversation. And guys, if you ever in a situation and you don't know what you're doing, don't know how to do it, do not be ashamed to call myself, call Jasmine. Please, that's what we're here for. We want you to be successful. We want you to be 100% successful. So we make ourselves available to you anytime you call. Some of you call us at 11 o'clock at night. We're going to pick up the phone. If we don't, we're going to call you back. Okay? So make sure that you're reaching out to us so that we can get involved in some of these situations, because trust me, we've seen just about everything that can be seen. And trust me, we're not ashamed to call somebody who's even, who knows more than us, or an attorney or what have you, and say, hey, how do we handle this situation? So anything that you guys, any opportunity that gets thrown your way, make sure that you exploit it. If you don't know how to, give us a call. Let us kind of think through the situation with you and then come up with a strategy. But there's plenty of buyers out here in the market now. So the information that we're sharing with you is once you get a buyer, okay, once you get a buyer, what do you do with them? So we want you to be confident, very confident in all of this. And one of the last things I'm going to say before I let Jasmine move on with the presentation for this morning is that in the BrokerMint library, it's a ton of information, but I want you to focus your attention particularly on the scripts. We have a ton of scripts in there. Whatever you're kind of dealing with, you can find a script. The script is just a dialogue to kind of give you confidence. But if you read those scripts, if you try to read through them over and over again on a daily basis, it'll build your confidence so that you know what to say when you run into different types of buyers. So go through, read through some of the scripts, particularly those that's converting renters into buyers. It basically says just ask them what their credit score is. Ask them if they would rather buy than rent. Tell them the advantages of buying versus the failures of renting. You have to know this information. It's available to you. It's in the scripts. Take advantage of it. Go through BrokerMint. Open it up while you're in your downtime. Print one of those scripts out. Keep it with you. Whenever you find a moment where you can read through it, keep reading through it until you can kind of memorize it so that when you're having a conversation with somebody, you have material to talk on. All right? And then once you do all of that, you'll get into all the stuff that we're talking about today. Writing offers, preparing offers, all that stuff. We're going to walk you through your first offer anyway. We're going to review any offer. To this day, Curtis might still call us and say, hey, could you review this offer before I submit it? So that's okay. We want you to do that. We're here for you. We're going to support you guys. So make sure that you're taking advantage of everything that we're bringing to you, particularly the trainings. We definitely block time out of our schedule just to make sure that we have opportunity to work with you guys and to train you and make sure that you have the best information available and the most up-to-date information that's available. And so without further ado, I just wanted to kind of put that out for you guys. Stay motivated. It's a very aggressive market right now. I don't know how many of you out there. I know a lot of you out there writing offers, but I don't know how many out there writing offers like I am. I mean, I'm putting in offers every day, and it's very competitive out here. Okay, so we're developing new strategies so that we can win a lot of these offers for our clients. And with that being said, Jasmine, I'm gonna let you go ahead to talk about what we do to make porterhouse offers when we prepare offers unique, make them stand out, and make sure that they get accepted by the sellers.
You got it. Those were some great points, and thank you for sharing those. I wanted to just pose this question to everybody before I begin. I know that you can see the very first step in preparing offers is to complete a CMA. but I know we have some new and seasoned agents on the line. So I want to ask you guys, why is it critical to complete a CMA before you even start preparing an offer? Feel free to unmute yourself. All right. So,
Jasmine, I think your
Hey, Jazz.
volume went out again.
yeah.
I just want you to know, I would normally be chiming in like I normally do, but I'm just literally like out in the street running around. So I may not be as chatty as I normally am.
Who is that just joined us?
That's me. That's Curtis.
Oh, hey, Kurt.
Hey.
Gotcha. So no worries. I'll take this. I just want to make sure that we all understand with regards to working with our buyers. We talk about getting them the best value for the property. We talk about making sure that we protect their interests and their assets and all those different things. And when you look at the list price for a property, it's very much the list price. And you consider sellers. Sellers want the most money possible for the property. And the buyer, we want to make sure that they pay the most reasonable or least amount of money for the property. So completing a CMA is a crucial first step to make sure that your buyer's assets and interests are protected. You can go see a property that's listed at $470,000 and a buyer's approved for $470,000, but you can do the comps and find out that that property, the comps are only $420,000. And then what if that buyer had gone in with an offer of $470,000? You know what I mean? So that being said, we want to make sure that we're very much educating and protecting our buyers. And there's also an addendum that requires for us to send the buyer a CMA, and then as checks and balances on our behalf, we have to say, okay, we've done our due diligence, we've done a comparative market analysis, and we've sent it to them so they know what the values or the range is for the property in advance. All right?
One other thing, Jasmine, I wanted to say in terms of the competitive market analysis or the comparative market analysis is that a lot of our clients, our buyers, they're still in the mindset that they want to throw lowball offers. And guys, let me say this to you. You have to encourage people to make at least a full price offer in this market. The lowball offers are out of there. Forget about it. Not in this particular area. You can't do the lowball offers. In most cases, there are some cases that you might be able to do it, bank-owned properties and the like, auction properties, that kind of thing. But I'm talking about a person that's buying a home to move in with their family. You want to make at least a full price offer in most cases, but you run the competitive market analysis to justify your theory. And what a lot of listing agents are doing right now is pricing the property at or just below the market value just to get a lot of showings and to get a lot of offers, and then ask for multiple. Once they get the multiple offers, they ask for highest and best, which increases the price of the house. So if you do your own competitive market analysis, you can know ahead of time the listing agent has priced the property low to intentionally get a lot of offers. So if you're working with a client that doesn't need closing help and they have extra money, you want to tell them, if you want this house, we have to make a very aggressive offer. We need to make it for over what the listing price is, because the listing price is set low intentionally. You have to give them some scientific data. So that's really what it is for me, guys. There's more scientific data that helps me gauge a strategy and a conversation for preparing my offer.
Absolutely. It's definitely data, and there's so much meat in that comparative market analysis that you can use to help gauge your buyer, such as what other buyers have asked for closing costs. So not only the values, but the normal days on the market, what buyers have asked for in closing costs. And that's very important in the seller's market, because you have some areas where buyers are not asking for closing costs at all. And if your buyer is competing in that market, they need to know that, because if they're going in even with a full price offer, but if they're asking for 3% closing costs back in a market where most of the buyers are putting down 20% and not asking for any closing costs, and their offer is not as strong. So it's very relevant data that we want to use to educate our buyers. On the flip side of that, we've had a number of instances where, just like Shay said, the property was priced low. So you have a buyer that may be toggling and going back and forth or saying, you know, will I write an offer or not? In that instance, this comparative market analysis is a tool for you to help sell your buyer on purchasing that property, because if they see that property is priced at $490 and the competing properties in the neighborhood are priced at $520, and everything is the same in terms of bedroom bathroom ratio, and that you're comparing apples to apples, then that's a very good buy, and that's the way that you want to help to sell your buyer on the value in that property. So doing the comparative market analysis is just your very first step in doing your due diligence. All right? So once you've done your comparative market analysis, then you establish the purchase price with a buyer, not beforehand, because there's so much that you discover from the comparative market analysis. Then, like Mr. Porter said, you have data points, and you're going to establish your purchase price based on data points, not based on a feeling. All right, so here's something that we want to pay attention to, because most people skip right over this step. Mr. Porter, do you want to give any insight on this?
Sure. So, yeah, there are tons of remarks in the Bright MLS that will give you, it will even sometimes give you hints on how to prepare an offer that's going to be accepted by the seller. So you might see remarks that tell you that something simple as that there's a deadline to have your offer in, okay? So you want to make sure you meet that deadline. You might have offers that tell you in the comments that the seller is what's the word they use? Basically, it says
motivated.
They're motivated. So that means, hey, just give them an offer. They need help. You might see something that say last deal fell through. So what you want to do in your offer is show that not only does my client have the pre-approval, but they have all the money that they need to close. And if you need to give me a little closing help, we can close this deal very quickly, and those type of things. So the remarks, and then some of them will tell you that you have to, like we do in the remarks with Porterhouse, we have a link that you have to submit your offer to. If you don't submit your offer to the right link, you might not even be in the ballpark. So you sent over the email, but you didn't follow the instructions in the remarks. So the remarks gives you a lot of information about the house, about the property, about the motivation of the seller, about the disposition, as I call it, of the people who are selling the house. And if you read it carefully, you can tell if they know that the house is, a great house, or they're going to get multiple offers on it. So you want to, start your strategy high. All kind of information, but you got to read the remarks. The remarks are crucial.
Those are some very good points. Now, let me ask one more thing that I did not include, but it is just as essential. When we're preparing the offer, there's another tab that we need to click on in Bright MLS. You know what? I'll just give it to us. So we need to verify in the public records that the seller of the property has legal rights to sell. What do I mean by that? When you're looking at a property, if you get the disclosures, which are going to be following us in order, you want to make sure that the person who's on those disclosures has the right to sell the property. Okay? So just verify that. And I just mentioned that because I didn't include it in our list. All right, so then the next thing, Mr. Porter, why is this important to do? Can't hear you just yet. Unmute yourself. The next thing is call the listing agent to advise them that there's an offer on the way. And there are a couple other things that you need to do in that conversation.
So back in the day, before social distancing, back in the world far, far away that you guys probably remember, I would try to meet the listing agent. I would try to take the listing agent out for coffee or lunch. I would smooze them if I really wanted to get this house for my buyer. And a cup of coffee was nothing, but you get the chance to meet with the person. But now you want to call the listing agent, at least call them. And when I say call them, don't call them and be like, hey, I submitted an offer. Did you get it? Bye. You want to call them and talk to them and see if you can engage their interest, talk about the business and how's the market been treating you. Yeah, it's been hot out here. It's been this and that. How's it going for you? Everything's going great. You know, you want to talk to the people about the industry, about what's exciting in real estate. In other words, you just want to make a connection as a real estate agent, from agent to agent. Just talk to them heart to heart and say, listen, you know how the game is. You know how this industry is. I have a client. Listen, this client is a hot client. They got all the money that they need. If your client offers them a little bit of closing help, that would be great. But I'm telling you, you really want to take a second look at the offer that I'm going to submit to you. It's really a great offer. In fact, I'm going to put great offer in all caps, just so you know it's mine. And I would love to work with you and make sure we get this offer closed, or make sure we get this transaction closed. My lender probably can do it in about 28 days. I know that's, shy of 30 days. I mean, I push on 21 days or whatever your client needs. How soon is your client? Just talk. Just have a conversation with people. Make sure that they know who you are and not just another offer that was submitted without a personality behind it. Make connection, because, again, the number one thing that you sell in real estate is what? Somebody? Anybody?
Yourself.
You sell
Good job,
yourself. Thank you, D. You sell yourself. And when you sell yourself, you might not even have the best offer, but they just like you so much that they push their seller, say, you know what, though? I know this offer looks like it's more money, but I think this guy is more secure. He knows what he's doing. She knows what she's doing. So now the seller is going to consider that from their listing agent, who they trust, and they'll say, you know what, let's go with this one. Now, some people say, no, I want the money. And you can say, well, look, let's see if these people can come up a little bit in the price. Let's see if these people can come up a little bit in the pricing. You might be able to come up a little bit in the price, but at least you made that contact. You made that conversation. You established that connection.
Excellent point. Is there anything else? I can think of at least one more thing we need to do on this phone call. And establishing a rapport was definitely at the top of the list. Letting them know that the offer's on the way, and what else?
You want to find out if they have any offers in hand.
There you go.
You want to find out, hey, do you have any offers in hand yet? If they say no, you should be able to say, well, you have one now. You should be able to push send. Say, look in your email now and tell me what you think about this offer while I have you on the phone. And some of the listing agents will take a look at it and they'll say, my client might want this and my client might want that. Okay, well, I tell you what, I'm going to call my client before you send it over to your client and see if they're willing to do this, that, and the other thing that they're suggesting, if it's reasonable. If your client is amenable, then you say, man, let's get this thing ratified today. Don't wait for no multiple offers. Say, I don't want no multiple offers, John. So don't play that game with anybody. Send it on over. See what your clients are saying. Give me an answer back by 8 o'clock. If they do have multiple offers,
right there, guys.
Yeah, if they do, one more thing I was going to say, Devin. If they do have multiple offers, they're not supposed to tell you how many it is at. But don't be afraid to ask. I'm saying, well, how many offers do you have? Do you have any good offers? They're going to laugh at you. Most good agents are going to laugh and say, I can't tell you that. I can't tell you that. But there's going to be some agents say, I have 3 offers. I have one that's FHA, one that's conventional, one is cash, but the cash is really low. But I mean, they'll just talk. Let them talk. It's not my job they weren't trained well. I represent my buyer. So ask the questions. If they laugh at you, it's okay. They know you playing the game. You're doing what you're supposed to do. If they give up that confidential information, that's not on you. That's all I want to say.
I wanted to chime in right there because I've been a firsthand eyewitness of Shea Porter getting countless ratified contracts just because he called the listing agent and established a rapport. So as warm and friendly and personable and all those different things as you can be with the listing agent on the phone, that's going to make a really big difference. Because I promise you, in this real estate industry, there are some agents who are the furthest from warm and personable. So you got to realize that in transactions, you're working with people. Your buyer's a person, the seller's a person, the agent's a person. They're not just a role or the title. So you just want to establish that relationship with people so that you can have a good working relationship throughout the transaction. And we've seen instances where there's been a bump in the road or two, and because there was that relationship established in the beginning and continued throughout the process, it really helped to hold things together and got everybody to the finish line. All right? So very crucial, calling that listing agent. All right,
Hey,
next.
Oh no, I was just gonna chime in and say I had a recent experience. I was on the listing side, but the agent and I really just kind of like talked it out and came to a place that, my seller was happy and his buyer was happy so that we could get the property ratified. And if we didn't kind of have the type of dialogue that we did, it definitely could have turned different, but he wanted to get ratified. I wanted to get ratified. And we just kind of, just talked it out, figured something out that, everybody would be happy so that we could get this thing, under contract. And sure enough, we did. And, it settled and everything was great.
Good job. You're on mute,
Thank you.
Mr. Porter. We can't hear you.
I was going to say, I'm going to get biblical for a minute. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to get biblical. There's a scripture that says, the letter killeth, but the spirit gives life. So if you send an email, it might kill your deal. But if you show people your spirit, it might give your deal life. Amen.
Amen. Excellent. That is very true. I tell you that much.
Amen, Mr. Porter.
And Curtis
Amen.
said something that very much ties into what Shea is saying. Just having that conversation helped to keep his deal together and got them to settlement. But if he had just, sent over an email, which we know can be very much taken out of tone, it could have been calamity for his client. So just make sure that you are personable because you represent the interest of your buyer when you're working with the buyer and your seller when you're working with the seller. So you want to be somebody that is easy to work with. You want to be somebody that, helps to move the deal towards settlement and close for them. All right?
I know another thing that I'll do, Jazz, real quick is once we start making that the contact with the other agent, is I'll also text message him or her my digital business card. So I'll call. If I don't get anybody physically on the phone, I'll leave a message. I'll immediately then text, and then I'll follow that text right away with my business card, so they know, I am a legit realtor, and this is me. So just to start to create that connection of personality, So the digital business cards are really important.
Absolutely. And Curtis, one more thing. If you got HomeSnap, you can send an in-app message via home snap.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mhm.
so I send an in-app message, I send a text message, I send an email, I leave a voicemail, I do a phone call, and I keep following up until I get the person. And I give you one situation in particular, just real quick, guys. I don't know a thing about baseball. I'm gonna tell you right now. And you guys might have heard me say Michael Cooper's 99%. There's 1%. There's one time we had clients who weren't particularly financially strong enough to get the kind of house that they wanted. They kind of had a beer bottle budget, but they wanted some champagne. And I called the listing agent, and he picked up at a baseball game. He was at the baseball game, and he was like, he said his name. He said, I didn't mean to answer the call him at the game. And I said, you at the Nats game? I could tell he's at baseball. I thought he said it or something. And I didn't know anything about baseball. I said, who's at bat? And this man got to talking. And he was half drunk. And so he said, what's your name? I said, Shea Porter. He said, man, I'm at this game. It's so hot out here. I'm about to give me a bat. And he just was talking and talking. He said, what house you making an offer on? I said, listen, I'm sending it to you. I said, don't worry about it. Enjoy the game. He said, what time will you go to bed? I said, what time is the game? You know, I don't know. I didn't know what time the game was over. But a baseball game can last forever. This guy called me back at midnight. He called me back at midnight. He said, you really want me to ratify you? He said, don't tell anybody I was drunk. I said, I won't. It's no. And so we had a conversation. But the thing is, take advantage of those opportunities. Every opportunity. Establish a rapport with people. People are people. Okay? Real estate and real estate deals are deals, but you're dealing with people. So treat them like people. And be interested in whatever they're interested in the best interest of your client. That's what I'm saying. I didn't know anything about baseball. I started pulling up stats on the Nats and what was going on at the game at the time and just trying to keep the conversation going. As long as he wanted to talk to me, I wanted to talk to him because I needed something for my client. For him, I needed to get ratified. And we got ratified. And we weren't the best offer. I'm going to be honest with you. He told us that. So.
You've gotten several like that where our client's offer wasn't the highest offer just based on their pre-approval amount, but merely establishing that rapport and being personable and having a relationship is what got us through the door and what kept it together through settlement. So very important point.
One more example. I can't emphasize this enough, guys. Know these agents. I had one agent that I told him I was serious about my offer. He said, if you're serious about my offer, bring it to he said, serious about your client's offer. If you bring it to my house, I'll get it ratified today. And I don't know if you remember, Jasmine, I drove all the way up to Baltimore. This is all the way in Baltimore.
I remember that.
I drove all the way to Baltimore. This man was sitting in his house. He didn't, when I knocked on the door, he said, come on in, Porter. He knew it was me because I was serious. This was back when I was a little bit crazy too. But I don't, but I put it to his house. I get in there, and he's sitting there eating a bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken and asked me did I want a piece. I said, I'll take a piece to go. I didn't want to eat it. I said, I'll take a piece to go. And come to find out, he was the seller and he was the agent. He went ratified it right there in front of me. I took it back to the office, and we were off to the races. So, like I said, establishing rapport with people, showing people that you're eager, you're zealous, you want to make this thing happen, you're ready to make it close. You don't have to be the highest, and you don't have to be the best offer. Sometimes you just got to be the highest and the best of yourself.
Those are some crucial points to make because, like we were talking about the letter versus the spirit in that regard, our clients, their offer is the letter. It's written on a contract. It's bound by paper and, rules and all those different things. But the spirit behind that is the client, their desires, their intentions, their motivation, and then the agent. You are the liaison. You are the person that's going in between. So what is your spirit like? Because that person has to make a commitment to not just your buyer, but to you as the agent for the next 30 to 45 days. So it is imperative to be personable and to make sure that you have a good working relationship at all possible with other agents. It really makes a big difference there.
So one of the things I want to also say, Jasmine, is that just like with any sales, the first thing I learned, I used to sell home security systems way back in the day. And one of the things that I learned, and I never forgot it, is that people buy from people who they like, trust, and believe. If they like you, they trust you, and they believe you, they're going to work with you. So when you're reaching out to that agent, you want that agent to like you, you want him to trust you, and you want him to believe you. If he like, trust, and believe you, he's going to help sell your offer for you. And that's kind of what Curtis was saying. Curtis is on the listing side, but because this guy and Curtis established a rapport where they can have a conversation, a dialogue, they probably talked about some other things outside of real estate. This guy personal, I got kids, I got family, you know, just let them know you're a human being. If they like you, they trust you, and they believe you, they're going to go work for you. They're going to help their seller support your offer, your buyer's offer. And that's wonderful for you and your buyer. And it's going to build your track record of success. And that's how we built our brokerage, just from people liking us, trusting us, and believing us.
All right. I feel like that was very important for us to spend so much time on that because we are in a people business. So our clients, the people that we're prospecting, and other agents, we're all people, and you want to make sure that you relate to people in a way that, again, they can like, trust, and believe you. So then next, this one is probably the easier of the steps, which is obtaining the property disclosures, but also very crucial because with those property disclosures, there's information that your client's going to need to be made aware of, but also in light of preparing the offer, your disclosures need to be ratified along with the contract in order for your buyer to have a legally binding contract, okay? So those disclosures, you're going to get that from the matrix on Bright MLS. Most agents are diligent about uploading them, and that should be very straightforward. Other times you'll look at the listing and the disclosures are not there, and if they're not, then you're simply going to request them when you make the call to that agent, send the email over and all that good stuff to make sure that you have those disclosures for your buyer. Very, very straightforward and simple step there. But remember to ensure that the name, go ahead.
No, what I was going to say, Jazz, is one thing that, I do a ton of transactions. So this is not good practice, but listen to what I'm trying to say. If the listing agent,
I'm listening, Mr. Porter.
If the listing agent forgets to upload the disclosures and you cannot get in touch with that listing agent for whatever reason, you sent the email, a text message, you called them, you've asked for these disclosures over and over again, submit the offer and say to them in the submission of the offer, here's our offer, here's our great offer for your subject property, for the property 10,800 Livingston Road. Please forward us the disclosures so that we can be fully ratified when your client signs. I'm assuming the sale. But if I can't get those disclosures, they forget to upload them or what have you. Some people just, and honestly, some people are new, some people don't remember, some people forget. I'm not gonna delay having my clients at least submit what the offer is for the sake of the disclosures. But you have to have the disclosures and you have to have them signed at some point. And sometimes, and I've been very successful in this, just me submitting that offer. In fact, the last contract I got ratified, the agent forgot to upload the disclosures. He didn't send them the first time I asked for them. It took me 2 or 3 times to ask for them. He had already ratified. I said, we're not ratified. You never sent the disclosures. So when he finally sent the disclosures, then we were fully ratified, but we had already started the process. We were ready to do the inspection. And we finally got the disclosures. And so, guys, listen, you got to be aggressive out here. But don't be so aggressive that you're not cautious enough to get these things. You definitely need the disclosures, but don't hold up the process if the other agent. And sometimes you got to walk a listing agent. You might have to walk them through the process, and that's okay too. That works in your benefit. They need help them, but don't help them, outbid you. But help them through the process. So, okay, now what we need to be doing. Now you're supposed to be, and I've done that too. That's all I want to say about that.
This is very much a team effort. So the listing agent is not your competition. The listing agent is someone that you're going to need to partner with in order to get both of your clients what they need from this transaction. So just like Mr. Porter said, if there's an area that they're deficient, you don't necessarily want to harp on it. You just want to help to fill in and help to bring them through, because at the end of the day, if they miss something, it could affect your buyer. Or if, they miss something, it could affect your seller, depending on the side of the transaction you're on. So just have a team approach with everything that you do and keep the main thing in mind, and the main goal is getting your client to settlement, okay? So remember, we talked about verifying in the public record. So in Bright MLS, when you toggle over what looks like a little courthouse with your mouse or your cursor, you click on there and you see the public records. This is where you're going to verify that the name that's on those property disclosures is the seller whose name is listed in the public records, and that's a very important step in the process. There are several steps that we'll talk about if the seller does not match. There are a number of reasons that they won't match, and we will not get into all of those today, but that's just a step of verification for you. All right, so then the next step is just as simple as getting those disclosures, except in the case where Mr. Porter just mentioned, where he had to follow up the agent maybe 3 times or so and got through a whole contract and the agent still didn't send it. But it shouldn't be that difficult, and most of the times it won't be. Sometimes it will, but just even in those times, you want to remain personable and keep that relationship going, okay? But this step we've endeavored to make very easy for you guys preparing your loop. There are several steps in this process, but the first step should actually already be done, because of course, when you started with your buyer, before you even did your buyer consultation, you created a loop for that buyer. So when you created that loop, you prepared their buyer agency documents and all that good stuff. And because you selected the buying template, your offer documents are already there. So there are some items that you're going to have to add to that loop, and that's what we'll go over next. But the meat and potatoes, or the framework of that offer, are already going to be there. All right? So something
everybody understands. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that you're talking about dot loop, which is our offer preparation, because we do have some new agents who haven't had dot loop training on the call. Okay. So guys, in our dot loop, when we say prepare a loop, that just means a new set of documents within dot loop, and they title them a loop. So when you prepare a loop, that means you're creating a new transaction within the dot loop system.
And I can actually do a sample one really quickly, so our new agents who are on the phone will see exactly what we mean by that, and I'll show you how simple it is. So this is a step that you will have already completed, because when you get a new buyer, can you guys still see my screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Yes.
Okay. So when you're no longer working with the buyer, how and when do you pick up again with the agent that you worked with on their behalf? We can talk about that. All right, so let's look at dot loop. All right, so this is what your screen is going to look like when you go into your dot loop account. You see this blue button over here that says add a loop? That's literally what you're going to do. And I advise for each of us to name our loops, our client's name, the transaction type, and then the property address. So name, type, and address. So for now, this will be Mr. Buyer, and then purchase. And once we get a property address, you're going to put that in there, okay? And then we simply go to continue. And now here is where it makes your life easy. See in template where you get to choose whether it's listing template, buying template, leasing, or listing lease. In your buying template, you simply choose buying template, and then you go to continue and done. So you have literally created a loop that has your document. So now we're just going to click on that loop, and it's going to take us inside of there for our newer agents. So as you scroll down, these are the documents that you will have prepared your buyer agency document. But look below that. This is where all of your offer documents are, okay? So as we're on the screen where we're talking about preparing your loop, That's the loop that you're preparing, okay? And that's where you're going to add your lender letter. And I'll just open these back up to where we were. So that's where we're going to add the lender letter, because there's certain things that are necessary in order to make your offer a complete offer. We talked about disclosures. You know, now we're talking about that documents, you know, your agency documents, which came from when you first did your consultation and had your buyers to sign off on your agency document. Now we're talking about other things such as your lender letter, a copy of the earnest money deposit, the seller disclosures that you gathered, and then a seller letter. This is just a personal touch that we do here at Porterhouse, because just like Mr. Porter said, this market is very competitive. And in a competitive market such as the one that we're in, you want to make sure that you are making a connection with the listing agent. And because your buyer and your seller don't communicate the way that the two agents do, you want to give that buyer an opportunity to connect with the seller on an emotional level. Because like we said, they, you know, if they like you, they trust you and believe you, well, how can they like a buyer that they've never seen or, you know, met or had a conversation with or any of those things? So this seller letter really helps that buyer to connect with the seller, and it gives a personality to their offer rather than just, you know, the letters and the contract. Did you have anything to add regarding that, Mr. Porter?
Absolutely. I want to make sure that we don't gloss over. These bullets are very important. Okay, so guys, listen up very carefully. So let's get some strategy in place for you. I want to give you some strategy. So in your lender letter, okay, your lender can adjust his lender letter and customize it. So if your client is writing an offer on a house that you've done the CMA, the CMA says the most this house should go for is $350. They have it listed at $340. But guess what? Your client can go up to $360, and it says $360 on the lender letter. You might want to call the lender and say, I need you to adjust your lender letter to $350. You don't want the listing agent to know that your client can actually go higher. Okay? So I might get a lender letter, and I might tell my lender to adjust the lender letter down to $350. Okay? That's one thing. Then in other cases, your client can actually go higher, so you might want to get your lender letter adjusted up. In other situations with the lender letter, there are places where your client might want a property that is not what they call FHA approvable, which means that the condo association is in default, and so they only are going to take conventional offers. So you might want to call the lender and say, hey, I want to know if my client can go conventional because this property is not FHA approvable. And you might find out your client is a veteran, so you might be able to get a VA. So the lender letter is important, but you need to make sure that the lender letter kind of matches the offer that you're going to submit and the property type. So it has to be very specific. That's a very important piece. Now, with the copy of the earnest money deposit, when it comes to the earnest money deposit, here's my suggestion for you guys. You don't have to have your client write a brand new earnest money deposit every time you submit an offer, especially if it's within the last week or two. So what I tell my clients to do, and we send them a text message, and I have the text messages available for anybody who wants them. You just tell your client to write a check, and they can write a personal check, okay, for the earnest money deposit amount, which we recommend, 1%, right, guys? We recommend 1% at least, all right, made payable to Porterhouse. And in the subject line, you don't put the property address. You put the letters EMD, or earnest money deposit, okay? In the subject line, they put in the letters EMD. That means that you can use that same picture of a check in the next offer if you should have to write another offer, instead of delaying the process and waiting for your client to send over another picture of a check. Now, once your offer is ratified and you have a fully ratified contract, you know the sellers agreed to all the terms that your buyers presented for the offer, you don't want that check because Porterhouse don't take personal checks. They have to get that turned into a cashier's check. And you want to get that cashier's check turned into us within 48 hours, no later than 72 hours. It needs to be in escrow. It needs to be deposited in escrow, not coming to the brokerage. It needs to be in the account. Because what's going to happen is sometimes we get a call and say we want proof of escrow from the seller. And that's a good practice for sellers, to demand proof of escrow to make sure that that money is actually in the escrow account. So make sure that they, once they get approved, get ratified, that they get that personal check turned into a cashier's check, and that that cashier's check is turned into the brokerage so that we can get it into deposit and be able to provide proof of escrow. All right?
Hey, Shay,
that's all I wanted to say about that. Yes, Curtis.
Hey, Shay, that's also a good time. So this kind of goes back to the actual buyer consultation. So they should have been prepped and kind of aware that all this was going to happen. But this is also when, if you haven't collected your $795 admin fee, this is also when they need to get 2 checks. You need to get that EMD check for X amount, for 1% of the purchase price. And you also need to get a cashier's check for $795 for the admin fee. So that's kind of,
absolutely,
for me, that's when, if I haven't got it yet, look, you're going to get a check? Well, you need to get 2 checks. Go ahead and get that 1% and go ahead and get that admin fee check.
And Curtis, you have probably been the most consistent person in getting that $795 admin check exactly when you get the escrow check. And if you do the buyer consultation right, they know that it's coming. They don't ask questions. They just go get the 2 checks.
Yep.
Absolutely.
All of those are excellent points. So that is what is included in preparing your loop. So as we said in dotloop, we've gone through what that looks like to simply open and establish a loop. And it's so straightforward because we've already built that template out for you guys. Now you're simply adding everything else that's necessary. Okay? I will say
Hey,
that
Jasmine, there's a question.
Okay, you want to take that?
Yeah, D said, can we go through the earnest money deposit process again? What part, D? What are you talking about? Unmute yourself so we can hear you.
Okay, so I was listening and I heard you say do a personal check and then a cashier's check, and I was like, uh-oh, wait, I missed something. So can you?
Okay, I can explain that. So no, when they're submitting their offer, it's okay for them to take a picture of a personal check. They're not going to have a cashier's check when they say, hey, let's write an offer on this house. So they write a personal check for, say, $3,500. Take a picture of that check showing all 4 corners, and that you have to submit a picture of the check when you submit the offer. Once the offer is accepted, you say, hey, you send them a text. Congratulations, your offer has been ratified. We need you to follow the following steps immediately. Number 1, go to the bank. Get 2 cashier's checks, one for $3,500 for your earnest money deposit and one for $795, right, Curtis? Curtis is on it.
Absolutely.
$795. There you go. Get the other one for $795 for your brokerage fee. Then you need to turn that in to the office ASAP. Okay? You get it? So that's what you want to do. That's the difference.
Mr. Porter, your audio went out.
That's all I wanted. No, that's all I wanted to say about that. I just wanted to make sure we clarify. You can take a picture of the personal check, but when it comes, once you're ratified, they got to go get those turned into cashier checks.
Okay, great. All right. And then the last step here is to complete the residential contract of sale and all of the relevant documents. So that residential contract of sale, that's going to be everything that's in your dotloop. And then as it pertains to the relevant addenda, so the framework for your offer is going to automatically be there in dotloop for you. However, depending on the property, there will be an addendum here or there that you'll need to add. Say by chance you're doing a transaction in Montgomery County or Howard County or Anne Arundel, Charles County, the various counties have addenda that you need to add for them. So in that case, you will add whatever the relevant addenda is and just read through your contract. I would say when we prepare offers, it normally takes me probably 3 times or so to just reread the offer, proofread it to make sure that all of the initial fields are present, the signature fields are present, you know, everywhere that's supposed to have the property address, date, names, and all of those things. That is the easiest part of the offer. It's meticulous, but it's very simple. And if you are diligent to actually pay attention to every page in the offer document, your offer will be, it'll be very straightforward. It'll be very well put together, very well done, and you'll get ratified easily. Because most of the time I work on the listing agent side of the transaction, and one of the more difficult things to do on the listing side of the transaction is to ratify an offer that's not well prepared. If the offer comes in and it doesn't have the buyer's names where they're supposed to be, the seller's names or property addresses or missing signatures and initials, you got to realize that that listing agent, they're tasked with the same thing that you are, which is protecting their client and getting them to settlement. So if I have 3 offers coming over, and if by chance all of them are the same price, which will happen every once in a while, then which one are we going to go with? We're going to go with the one that's best prepared, because even if we wanted to work with the other one, if my client signs off on it, then that means that there's so many different holes in that contract that they literally don't have a legally binding contract as of yet. Or what that then tasks us with doing is saying, okay, we'll send it back to the buyer's agent and let them update it, let them proof it, let them do this. Or that means that as a team player, the listing agent, now that means I've taken on the task of updating it and proofing it and doing all these different things. So you really want to pay attention to every page in your offer document and just make sure that the straightforward pieces are there. And most of the time what you'll see, or most of the time what I see on the listing agent side, what's missing is going to be that information that's very well known, like the seller's name, buyer's name, property address, date, settlement date, offer prices, and all that good stuff. So just pay attention to those things because you know them, your buyer knows them, but you got to communicate them with the listing agent and the seller in the form of a contract. Okay, guys?
Before you go any further, I wanted to say one more thing, just to take it a step further, guys. You know, you don't want to submit what I call a bachelor pad offer. In other words, it has all of the stuff in it, but it ain't pretty. So, I mean, some things as simple as choosing a good font so that it looks like it flows into the contract, making sure that you capitalize appropriately. So if, you know, you putting, I like to spell the word Maryland out, but if you're going to put MD, at least put capital MD. If you put in the court and you're using CT, put capital CT. Make sure that you look like you kind of know what you're doing and you can speak English and you know how to write English pretty well. You want to make sure that if you're going to center the information on like the top of the information, you center it with the name and the address, center it on all the documents. If you're going to bold it on all the documents. Make sure that it's pretty as a picture, okay? And so, and also the synopsis page. Now, we got to clean the synopsis page up because sometimes when you download it, the text boxes show up and it looks kind of crazy. So we're going to figure out how to fix that. But even the synopsis page is just putting all of the information that the seller probably wants to know as your cover sheet. And your cover sheet is saying what you're going to find in this document is X, Y, Z. I've even seen one with a table of contents, and I don't know if you want to go that far, Jasmine, to let you know what is in the offer. You know, what other things in the offer besides what here's where this document is found. So you want it to look, in addition to being mechanically sound, you want it to be grammatically correct, and you want to be aesthetically pleasing, and you still want to do everything else like calling the agent and all these other things, just to let them know that you're well with it, you're sharp. And even on your email, guys, If you haven't cut and pasted the custom signature emails where it comes over and it has your picture, and it has the Porterhouse logo, and it has a disclaimer on it, you're doing yourself a disservice. It says best regards because you deserve the best. It should have your name and all that stuff at the bottom of your email signature. If you need help with that, I'll help you fix it. But I've even gotten comments saying, every time I get an email from you, it says best regards because you deserve the best. People like that. It makes them feel good. You're not putting it on there every time it's automatically coming up. So some of these little touches, believe it or not, will be the difference between you getting the offer and you not getting the offer. And these are tested over and over again. We test them. Some things we used to say we got rid of. Other things that we didn't say we added. So we're not making this up. This is what you're walking into. When you walk in the Porterhouse, this is what you're walking into. These things have proven themselves. You can reinvent the wheel, and you might get good results. We're not saying that this is the only way to do it, but we're saying that you don't have to make it up as you go along. It's already here for you. Trust us. We hope you like us, but at least trust and believe we've been successful with the strategies that we're giving you guys. If you do what we're asking you to do, and the way we're trying to ask you to do it, you don't have to go through the heartache of not being successful. You just have to do it the way we're prescribing it over and over again until you get used to it, and you'll start to see the results, and it'll start to snowball. So that's what we want from you guys. We want you all to take advantage of this information, use it over and over again, all of the strategies, techniques, and then it'll start to snowball for you so that your business will grow.
Those are excellent pointers. I want to add to that. When you send over an offer, it represents three people. It represents your buyer. It represents you as an agent. And it also represents your brokerage. So you want to make sure that the offer that you're sending over, though we have the bells and whistles, we have the template available for you, we have letters, we have all these different things to make your offer look very pretty, we want to make sure that what you guys are typing in is very much like what your English teacher got on you about when they say, hey, make sure you put a space there or a period there or a comma if you're dealing with numbers, capitalized. And these things are so, I guess they're so easily that they're so easy that we can overlook them because nobody talks about, proper, punctuation and all these different things because we're so many light years past that. But you want to make sure that we don't kind of get into the text language with the offers that we're submitting. Write it out fully. Do it correctly. If you're doing dollar values, make sure that you have a dollar sign in front of it. Make sure you have your commas and your decimal points and everything where they're supposed to be because that offer represents your buyer, it represents you, and it represents your brokerage. So just pay attention to the small details because those things matter. And I promise you, when that listing agent is looking at your offer, they're looking at all of those things. If they have two offers that are competing and they're both the same amount and, they're equally aggressive, how do you think they're going to choose who they're going to work with? They're going to look at the agent and say, okay, well, is this somebody that I want to commit the next 30 to 45 days of being in a transaction? And they're going to judge the book by its cover. They're going to say, okay, well, this offer was very well written, so this person seems to know what they're doing. So, I'm willing to work with this person. Or this offer wasn't written well at all, so this person doesn't seem to know what they're doing. So I'm willing to commit to the other agent because they have the best possible chance of getting us the settlement.
Jasmine, right, one more thing I was gonna say is, and let me see who's on here. I'm not talking about anybody, but I had one of our agents who asked me to review an offer, and they're relatively new. They're not new, but they're relatively new. And so I was reviewing the offer, and I just noticed how the documents were not in any kind of order. And so I reorganized the documents, and I like to organize them in order of importance when I submit them. So the first and most important document, you start out with the synopsis. People want to see your money. They want to see the lender letter. You want to put the lender letter and the money. But the next most important thing is the residential contract to sell itself. and that's like 15 pages, 11 to 15 pages, whatever it is. But they had the contract way down at the bottom. And so I moved the contract all the way up to the top. And then after that, they added an escalation clause. I said, that's pretty important because that's going to tell people that you're willing to go up in price. And then I moved up the 3% that they were asking for the seller's concession. So I put them in an order of importance. And then I went back in, and some of the fonts were different. Like he had different words, or he might have spelled out the word court, and then other places it said CT. Cut and paste. Just make it simple for yourself. If you do it right the first time, you can cut and paste it into different sections. So I've cleaned all of that up, and then I, added some style to it. I bolded places. You want to make sure the seller's name is bolded. If the buyer's name is bolded, make sure the seller's name is bolded. Just little touches like that. And so when I got it back, he said, "Man, you changed the whole offer." And I said, "Well, what you mean?" I said, the terms are all the same. He said, "But yours looks better than the one I sent you." And I say, well, that's the whole point. I said, we want to make sure it's not just, like I said, it's not just a bachelor's pad. You want to make sure that, it has a lady's touch. And if you don't know, you send that offer over to Jasmine. If I'd have sent that same offer to Jasmine, she would have changed it again. It would have been much prettier, I guarantee. And so I let Jasmine look at my offers because I want her opinion. I let her look at my letters. So we don't mind looking at stuff. Send it over to us. And then, we'll put the finishing touches on it, the little bells and whistles. Anything that you can do is worth it because we've lost it. I told you, I lost one time, and the difference was that I forgot to have my buyer write a letter to the seller. And I was so disappointed. And they said, everything was great with your offer, it looked beautiful, but my seller was touched because the buyer from the other offer wrote them a personal letter about the property. Well, that's what we do anyway. I was just in a rush and didn't do it, but me being in a rush caused my clients to not win that offer. And I kicked myself for it, and I never did it again. So take advantage of that. Take advantage of everything that's in here. Go ahead, Jasmine.
All right, so we are going to do a soft close because we are past time, and I do want to allow everybody who needs to go. I simply wanted to point us to the reference that we have because I showed you guys in dotloop where you already have your loop template prepared, but your first document in your loop template is your offer checklist. So as Mr. Porter was going over everything and where it should be in the offer, don't feel like you have to rely on your memory because it's there for you. Everything is literally right there in dotloop. You have a checklist there. You even have a checklist at the bottom of your loop on the outside so that the various steps that we're going through now, you can go back and use them for your reference. But it's all here. This is everything that should be in your offer. This is the order that it should be in there. And this has always been in dotloop, and we'll make sure it remains there for you guys as a reference. So please, like Mr. Porter was saying, we've done this. This is tested, it's tried, and it's going to help you to win more offers for your buyer. So please don't just disregard and look over it and think, okay, well, it's not that important. I don't have to do all of that. It's not difficult. Just do it the way that represents you well as an agent, your buyer well, and your brokerage well. And that's all I have to say in closing, Mr. Porter. We can't hear you, Mr. Porter. Mr. Porter? Mr. Porter, we can't hear you. Okay, my apologies. All right, guys. So if you have a question, I can answer your questions now. Otherwise, I want to go ahead and start closing us out. You guys are wonderful. Thank you so much for logging in to get your Working with Buyers training for the day. Everything that we put in here was very purposeful because we want to make sure that you are well trained as agents to represent yourself well, your buyers well, and your brokerage well. And if you represent yourself and your buyer and your brokerage well, that means you're going to earn more money because you're going to close more deals, you're going to get more offers accepted, more agents are going to want to work for you. So it works very well for you overall. All right, guys. So if you think of anything that we talked about today that you'd like for me to expound on a little bit more, by all means, just give us a call, give myself or Shay a call, and we will see you next Wednesday for Working with Buyers training. If you have any questions, I can take a couple questions, but I want to allow everybody that has to go. Do we have any questions before we close out for everyone else?
So I had a question that I had sent through the chat.
Okay. Go ahead and share it with us.
Oh, so if you're working with a buyer and you mutually decide not to work with each other, then when can you get back to the agents that you were working with, for that buyer? When do you follow up with agents? Like you've been having regular conversations with them, and they're calling you and you're asking what's going on, and then you decide not to work together. So when do you get back to the agents?
You can respond to the agent quickly. You can simply let them know that your buyer has chosen to go in a different direction, and if the buyer changes their mind, that you'll follow up with them and let them know.
Okay.
Yep.
That's great. And I had asked you another
got
question, which I guess I can ask offline.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good. Anybody else have any other question before we leave? Well, you guys are the best. Again, thank you for taking the time to get your training today. The better trained you are as agents, the more confident and competent you are, the better you represent your buyers, the more deals you close, the more agents want to work with you, and essentially the more money that you will make as a result. So thank you for taking the time to get the training today. You guys have a wonderful rest of the day. And if you need anything, as always, give myself or Mr. Porter a call. All right, guys, have a great day.